Okay, so this is part two. So essentially, it was time for me to relocate and time for me to narrow down where I wanted to move. In terms of a search, and I don't know if you're the same when you're looking for a rental, I took a good, I usually take 6 to 9 months because I like to take my time. I like certain things that are important to me. There's like some things that just are deal breakers, meaning if they don't exist in the apartment or the community or the amenity, then it's just something I'm not going to rent. So it takes a while because I'm very particular on what I want. And when I looked in the area of Dallas Fort Worth and narrowed down to Cortland, essentially, sadly, in Euless, they were the only one that had what I wanted. And I was trying to get as close to Colleyville. Like Colleyville doesn't have any apartments at all, and that's why they have low crime rate because there's no apartments there. It's all houses. So essentially, I was trying to get as close to Colleyville because that's where I pictured myself buying a house. However, Euless was the only place that really had apartments, and this was the closest that was upscale and met what I was looking for. So that's why I rented at Cortland. I even at one point wasn't going to rent from them, but I changed my mind because after looking again, they were the only ones. So it's a monopoly, right? You want upscale in Colleyville area, Euless, it's the only one there. So they kind of got it mastered in terms of being able to get people who want upscale in that area. So good for them in terms of that. However, the experience is important because it is your home, right? Even if it isn't a rental or it's an apartment, it is your home, right? Home is where the heart is. Home is where you go when you're trying to recover after a long day of work. Even if you work at home, you're still working. Home is where you do your cooking, your baking, you raise your children. It's where you go to relax when you're stressed out. It's where sometimes you're sick. It's where you have moments of clarity. It's where you create memories. It's where you create items, where you think of great ideals, where you contribute to your company, where you contribute to other human beings, where you go to church, where you have dinner parties. It's your home. So being in a property management role, it's important that you understand that while this is work for you as a property manager or an employee who works there, this is the home for the tenants that you actually need to service. And if you really don't have, like the patience or the type of personality that allows you to want to help all people, then why are you in that role? Is always the question. Because because of laws that make it official where you can't discriminate against people, you can't just look at someone and not want to rent to them. End of story. You can't just um, be prejudiced against a race and not want to rent to them. So, my experience when I just kept calling um, was an avoidance by Cortland Glade Parks. They did not want to call me back or have a conversation with me when I did call. In fact, one of the times I would call because I need to make decisions and I'm not getting the answers what I sent on email. And I noticed it was a theme that not only were they not returning my calls, they also were not responding to my messages where you're just asking for information like, do you offer this? Do you have this? Just simple stuff that you can find the answer to online. Just what you would do with any community. Every other community, every other one was responding and acting like a normal property management company. Like, yeah, we want whoever you are, give you the opportunity to get the information, decide if this is a match. Exactly like you would always find. Normally they're warm and gentle and they're helpful and they usually have a lot of good spirits about it. At Cortland Glade Parks, it was totally the opposite. Like they did not want me to call. I never met these people in my life. But over the phone, and I don't care what anyone says, over the phone you can definitely hear dialect. You know the difference. You know who you're talking to if you're that type of person who's really listening for that stuff. And it really was so weird to me that I couldn't get emails returned. I couldn't get calls back. Nothing. It was just the strangest thing. And I couldn't figure it out. And then I read online a review about someone who looks like me. And she stated her experience, and it was so similar to mine. So that told me a lot from that. But did I let that stop me? Absolutely not. Because that kind of stuff is always going to exist. You cannot stop people from acting in that manner, biased. So I continue because it's what I wanted. I wanted to rent there because it was the only one in the upscale area, and I already made my decision about Dallas Fort Worth. End of story. So it was like there was no other alternative just based on proximity to what I needed. So I did reach out. I mean, it's usually with that type of situation, customer experience, you don't want to proceed. But I did because of my overall goal. And I was basically like, when I live in the apartment, it's not going to be where I have to interface with those people in the office who are apparently, whatever their reason is, I can only tell you what it felt like the reason was. So I kept pushing, meaning I kept calling and sending emails and just trying to get responses. It was tough. And if you have apartments available to rent, why aren't you calling prospects back anyways? As an owner, I would want to know that. But anyways, so I did eventually get the information that I needed. And it wasn't easy because even when I called and got someone over the phone, they tried to rush me off the phone. Yes, and I'm not kidding you. Unbelievable experience with that. It definitely felt like they had an agenda. Once again, never met these people, and I didn't go in person. This was all over the phone because I was in another state. So just to let you know about that. So, and just to let you know in terms of me, I'm a gentle spirit, meaning usually for me, I don't see anybody's race or anything. I'm about character. And so I was kind of shocked by the experience, but I was like, is this really going on? I didn't know until I read about someone else's experience, and it felt real to me that this was what was going on. But I moved and I just forged forward, using God as my strength to help me ignore what I felt. And I did rent. So I did get the unit that I signed for online, and I got it, and it was sight unseen. I didn't even see it except for what was on the video and the pictures. I just went what I thought was my gut telling me that that was probably the unit for me. I didn't know what was going to happen after that. So, anyways, I did rent, um, and and I pretty much initially was living the life like I normally live. But I can tell you a few months after that, what I consider the first mafia-like tactic occurred. And I can tell you there's some motivation behind that. Um, so essentially, when I had a tough time with trying to lease and stuff, I did escalate to the corporate office, mainly to create an awareness for them so they can know what was going on. It's like, look, I'm trying to rent and they're not responding to me, etc. And now that they have responded, they're giving me information that we've already covered, and now they're making it seem like I gotta pay more for like a washer and dryer, and this was supposed to be already included. So it was just a really poor communicated non-presentation of what I was going to get experienced because they didn't want me there. That's my opinion. When you act like that, you're acting like that for a reason. You don't treat people like that if you want to welcome them and really have them live where you are. So that's part two, and now I'm going to get into part three.